Welcome to Navigating Now, real talk for rocky times. A Pete the Planner Calmcast.
Hello, everyone. It's Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner. The penultimate, is that how you would say the penultimate? The second to last? I don't know, I'm probably using that word incorrect. Second to last Navigating Now podcast since Liberation Day, which was just very memorable. April 2nd, where tariffs started to control the news cycle. We decided to do this show, 20 episodes to help you understand what is going on, how this impacts you, and what to do. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. for 10 minutes, we spend time together. We learn some stuff. We learn one stock market term. We learn one economic term, and we learn one personal finance term. What has happened since we last spoke? Well, let's talk about what's happened in the market and the economy. A lot has happened in politics, but that's not this show. Different show. Not my show. Let's talk about that President Xi of China and President Trump of the United States had a 90-minute phone call. We covered that on Thursday. The market had a mild positive reaction to that. Nothing wild, but certainly mild. Living on the mild side, as no one says. Then yesterday, Monday, the 9th, both of those parties, both countries met in London for further trade talks. And I'll tell you, there is a massive wait and see going on right now. The market is just hanging out, quite literally hanging out, not knowing what to do. And I'm going to prove that to you today with one of our topics. First topic we're going to talk about today is the concept of volume. Not volume like my microphone is too loud, but volume as in how many shares of stock are being traded in a given trading day. We're going to help you understand what that means. Also going to talk about a trade deficit, which has, oddly enough, is why we're in this situation right now, good, bad, or otherwise, is concept of a trade deficit. And then one of the oldest, most classic personal finance terms everyone should know is net worth. So let's start with volume. Okay, so every day, we're going to talk about both a stock and then a market. Okay, so as you know, oftentimes when I talk about a market on here, I'm talking about the S&P 500, the Standard & Poor 500. It's a group of 500 different companies, 500 different stocks. So let's start with a stock. We'll pick Apple. Right? I know I always choose Apple primarily because it seems nutritious. So in any given day, Apple trades. And when Apple trades, it has what is called a volume, right? It is to say it certain number of trades trade in the given day. So it, by its nature of how these things work, it has what's called an average volume. And I'll see what the average volume here is for it. Always good to do it this way. 10-day average volume, and 52.4 million shares trade hands. And that is on a given day over the last 10-day period. Okay, so the way you can understand this is if today volume for Apple is significantly higher than 52.4 million shares on that day, let's say it comes in at 80 million shares on the day. What it says is investors have a lot of conviction and belief and confidence in that the trade they're making makes sense. Even investors, if you look at the mass of investors, there's different levels of confidence. Sometimes you speculatively buy a stock or speculatively sell a stock. Sometimes you're thinking, this is absolutely going to hit, and I'm excited to make this trade. And oftentimes the market, that is the market of investors, often feel the same way. And so when you go and you look at the volume going on, if it's a low volume or if it's at average or below the volume of the average, it can tell you that people are not confident, that they're kind of just waiting for something else to happen. As we'll talk in a second, that's exactly what's going on with the markets, the S&P 500. With all of this talk about trade negotiations and the fact that there was supposed to be 90 trade deals in 90 days, And right now, there's about a half of a trade deal done with the UK, and we are running up against a deadline, which I believe is 32 days from today. Don't quote me on that. We still have 89 and a half trade deals to do before other levels of tariffs can kick in. So what does that mean? It means investors, unless they start feeling confident that these deals start taking off, they're just going to hang out. They're just going to wait. We're not going to see these wild swings until we get more news because there's no new information. So let's just put a hat on the Apple thing for a second. It averaged, like I mentioned, 52.4 million shares per day is the 10-day average on volume for Apple stock. Today, with 2 hours left, just under 2 hours left in the trading session, it is trading 30.7 million shares. That is to say, in my estimation, it's going to be a low trading day. Whatever's happening in Apple stock, there's not a lot of conviction around it. And to my point, it is up 0.08% today, 0.08%, 0.08 of a point, which doesn't really smell of conviction. Now, let's talk about the S&P 500 and what that volume might look like. Let's talk about April 2nd, which was Liberation Day. The number of shares of S&P 500 was significant April 2nd through the April 4th. And then it's been pretty low since then. For instance, there is about 1/3 of the volume of shares traded yesterday than there was during that time. So again, there's not a lot of conviction. Volume can tell you about conviction. Good lesson there. All right, let's talk trade deficit, which is what got us in this mess. That is when the number of goods you export is different than the number of goods you import. So you either have a trade surplus if you export more than you import, or you have a deficit if you import more than you export. President Trump believes that that is bad. I'm not here to disagree with him. I'm here to say that in some instances, a trade deficit is not a problem. It's not unnatural. Certain countries have certain economic and production advantages where it makes more sense for us to spend our dollars to not create those industries. A very simple example of that is bananas. And I don't mean like the adjective like that's bananas. I mean literally bananas, the perfect fruit. The United States does not really have the means to have a banana industry. So if we had a trade deficit with a country whose primary exports were bananas, the United States, we're not going to fix that. And that's okay. So trade deficit is where we're at right now. It is the reality of our situation. The impact of a trade deficit can impact our currency's strength. So that is 100% true. It certainly can impact manufacturing jobs, which is at the heart of a lot of the chaos right now. And this is a very important one that we're not going to gloss over, can impact the amount of foreign debt. If your trade opponents own a lot of your debt, that's not exactly great from a leverage standpoint. Now, let's transition off to our personal finance action tip of the day. Net worth. Boy, is this old school. Okay, so you got a bunch of stuff, right? You got some assets. They might be financial assets. They might be art or collectibles. No one ever really has art or collectibles. So anyway, you have these things, and they have a dollar value. You add them all up, and those are called your assets. That's your asset amount on the balance sheet. Then you have all the debts you owe. One could be your mortgage, could be credit card debt, could be a car loan, could be student loans, could be medical debt, could be a personal loan, whatever. Net worth is when you take all your assets and then you subtract the value of your debts. And that is going to give you a net worth. That net number in a perfect world is positive, and it's consistently going up. I'll also say it's a valuable number, even if it's negative, because then the goal over time is to make it less negative and more towards the positive sign. Last show is on Thursday, but I'm not going to leave you hanging beyond that. I'll let you know what the plan is on Thursday. We're going to talk about a market bubble, economic expansion, and then the financial vision for the rest of your financial life. Boy, that was dramatic right here on the
Calmcast.
Oh, I almost didn't hit it today. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll see you on Thursday, 2 p.m., our final Navigating Now
Calmcast.